Welcome back everybody. Today we're gonna play Viper on Pearl. Today is day 112 of playing every agent on every map. Today's agent Viper went from being one of the most picked agents in pro play to being one of the least picked agents right now. She is just not as viable as she used to anymore because her toxins don't hold for that long, and also her snake bites are not that good anymore and she only has one of them. They got a little better by them being a little longer, but in general using a Viper on most maps is not really viable. Pearl being one of the maps where she is technically playable, but she isn't a great pick. Starting off with A-side defense. On A-side defense, you have a couple of options how to play. Firstly, you can use a wall like this one through A main and mid. It will stop the people from coming out A main as soon as you put your wall up. You can then also combine that with a molly, for example. Same thing here in art. Or also over here in the doors area, you can just throw a molly right there and stop them even more from coming out. And anyone that is walking through is going to take a lot of damage. Other than that, you also have the option to just use your orb here on A main. As soon as the round starts, you throw it there. Then you put it up. Makes it really hard for the enemies to come in. You can also walk into the orb or even peek out behind the orb. And in general, using a orb right here in main is also a pretty good stopping tool for the enemies. Other than that, you can also use a ult like this in the beginning of the round to stop the enemies from coming A in general. It will most likely stop the enemies from coming A or also through art, because this ult also covers art. So you can just play somewhere around here, hold the people that are coming from main. If you think the enemies are coming from main and from art at the same time, you can molly one side and then fight the other. It makes it pretty hard for the enemies to get into A side, and in general this ult is pretty good defensive ult if you have the read that they plan to go towards A, and you can almost stack the other side as well. Switching over towards art and mid, you can also use a orb right here to stop the enemies from coming in. You have to be kind of careful though on how you place it. It can bounce off these stairs as you've just seen, so I recommend you go here close and throw it like this. Like this it is more consistent, and it also allows you to go up, peek out behind and walk back. Or if you throw it even further up, like for example up here, it allows you to go all the way around, peek behind this, and peek into the players that are playing in A main, and then just run out and get away. Or you can also play in this close corner right here, but this corner only works if the orb is up. If the orb is down, or if it is about to go down, I would not recommend you play in this corner. Switching over towards double doors now. On double doors, you can use a similar wall to the one I've shown you on A main. It is one like this. You go get yourself in this corner right here, and you use a wall like this. This one will go through A main and through mid as well. It will cover all of the 3 lanes, and it will make it pretty hard for the enemies to get in. It will also perfectly cover main. So using this wall on defense is a pretty good one, and then you can use your orb over towards B. If you hear anything on B, you can use this orb right here to stop the enemies from coming in. To stop the enemies from coming in here, you can also then just use mollies to stop anyone trying to get in here. Here in double doors, you can also get a lineup for a orb that is pretty strong to stop the enemies from coming in. It is kind of a one-way orb, and it is really strong to use against people that are trying to come through mid. For that lineup, you get yourself right here on this corner. Look all the way down, get your crosshair on the corner, and then you aim at around midway between this dot and this line up here, so just about right there, and then you just normal throw. The orb will land here on the top of this ledge, and as soon as you bloom it, any enemy that is coming through is gonna get one weight, kind of, and it makes it really hard for the enemies to come in. You can then just use a molly here as well and spray through this orb. I recommend for that you actually use a phantom. It is way stronger because it doesn't have any tracers, it has more bullets, and on that close range the damage difference is not that big. Other than that, you can also use a ult right here, but in general I don't really recommend it. This ult makes it almost impossible for the enemies to come through the double doors area, but in most cases you're not going to use that ult either way. Switching over towards B now. On B, you can use a wall from right here in this corner in the beginning of the round, before the round even starts. Get yourself lined up with the door right here. Just stand on top here, and then make sure your wall goes through here and through these doors. It isn't really too precise. You can just use a wall like this, and this ball makes it really hard for the enemies to come towards B. Because firstly, as soon as you hear anything on B, you can put this wall up. You can spray the enemies through here. You can even peek through here, especially if you have a chat or a chamber. It makes it almost impossible for the enemies to come through street, because firstly they have to cross through this wall. You can also play right here, use a molly, then they have to cross through this wall as well. They're gonna get another decay. And even if they want to come out towards B side, there's a third part of the wall, so they have to walk through 3 walls, so you get a lot of value on the people that are trying to split towards B. It is also really strong because you can get all the way up here in a spot where the enemies are not going to expect you. Even if they walk through it, they're not going to probably check right here, and you can get a couple of kills on the people that are walking through, and even peek through it and get a lot of kills on the people that are trying to through the doublers. It is also pretty strong because as soon as you hear anything on B, B will be walled and mid will be walled at the same time, and it makes it really hard for the enemies to get through. Other options for B is to use a orb right here in the middle. This one is not too precise, you can just use it like this, and it will cover the whole choke right here and make it really hard for the enemies to get through. And if you think the enemies are going for a hit, you can just use a molly right here. You can also use the molly and the orb in like a separate thing. So you use the orb first, and then as soon as your orb is going to go down and you think the enemies are going to try to go for a hit, you can just throw a molly right here and make it impossible for the enemies to come through. And even if they walk through, you can just get close here, shoot, and get a lot of kills. This orb also allows you to play in this close corner right here. Anyone that is walking out is most likely going to walk out towards backside, and they're not going to clear this corner right here, and you can get a lot of kills on the people that are trying to go towards B side. And now to the last thing you can do on B side, you can use a ult towards long. This ult is really strong, but again, it is not that common that people come towards B, so I recommend you either ult on A, or if you have the hard read that they're coming towards B, for example, your team is on an eco and the enemies have a full buy, I would recommend using an ult like this to stop the enemies from coming in towards B. You can also use that ult, for example, in retake. If you know the enemies are long and trying to play for spam, you can just get close here, use a molly, spam anyone that is trying to go for the that is trying to interrupt your defuse, and you can get a lot of kills like that as well. Or you can just go for the hide here, wait for anyone to walk through here, and get a lot of kills on enemies. Switching over towards attack, and with A site. A site is pretty simple to smoke on a Viper. You just have to use basically this wall to stop the enemies from seeing you in Link here in Art, and over towards Flowers. What you can do as a smoke to complement it is use this lineup right here, get yourself stuck in this corner, and then aim at exactly this spot. This will give you an orb that will land right here in dugout. This orb will allow you to stop enemies from seeing you, and it will also allow you to isolate the dugout fight. So for example, if you know somebody is over towards dugout, you have a easier time killing them because this orb protects you. The problem with a orb and wall setup like this is that the orb and the wall drain pretty quickly, so you don't have that much time to take the site. So in general, I only recommend you use the wall to take the site. Put that up, fight the people that are trying to go for a stall on you, use mollies for example right here, or over towards art to stop the enemies from walking through. And then you get off of the site, or if you want to take more space, put down your wall, put down your orb, take the space back here, use this orb to stop the enemies from coming in towards the site, or use this orb to kind of hide your steps where you are. You can even use this orb to go all the way around and hide in this corner. As soon as you drop the orb, you have a really unexpected spot for the enemies, so you can get a kill off of the enemies like that. The other option for your orb is to just use it right here on top of the spike. You can then play main, use a molly on the spike to stop the enemies from going for a defuse, and in general just play post plant like this. For a ult, I recommend a simple side ult like this. This will stop the enemies from pushing into art. It will also make it pretty hard for the enemies to push over here towards the this area right here, so you can have teammates that are hiding behind here. You yourself can also be hiding behind here. As soon as you see somebody come in, get out like this, and then just play your mollies. And you can get pretty far back in towards main. You can also just wait right here, use mollies to either stop the enemies from defusing or stop the enemies from even coming in. This ult right here covers almost all of the site, and it's a pretty good post plant ult. Switching over towards mid. On mid, there's not really that much you can do. What you can go for is a orb like this one. It's just a running throw orb like this. It makes it possible for you and your team to lurk in towards the area right here. It will have a gap right here, so be aware of that. But it will make it possible for you to come out here. You can then drop the orb and then fight the people that are playing behind it. But in general, I don't really recommend you use your orb right here. And smoking mid with a Viper is a pretty hard thing. What you can do if you have two smokes is to use a wall like this one, because it will split up the site at the same time as it also gives you a lurk wall through mid. So you can focus on this angle right here. The people from down there will not be able to see you. You can then also go around this corner, check here, even drop the wall, and focus on the people that are playing in this area right here of B lane. Other than that, it also helps you to take the B site. So you can have a wall right here. It will also be on top here. It will be kind of a one-way because there are sometimes gaps in there, and it will allow you to plant somewhere on site, for example up here or even behind here. Switching over towards B now. On B, you can use a wall like this one. This wall will cover the top and the bottom right here, similarly to a harbor wall. It is a pretty good wall. It will also kind of cover the link area right here. The people from here can still peek you, but you can use some utils to stop them from peeking out here. For example, a molly off of this wall right here. Or even your orb right here as well. But most of the times, I recommend you use some other util for these areas. You can then go for a plant, and then use your orb up here, for example, to play post plant with, because it is kind of a one-way. The enemies that are trying to go for the defuse are going to have a hard time. They're going to be decayed, and you can then just spray the enemies because they can't really see you. You can also use mollies like this, and in general, using your orb like this is probably the best use case for a Viper orb on B. For a ult, I recommend a ult towards side like this. It will cover most of the site, and it will also allow you to play a little further back, away from the spam, or here close in this corner, or even pretty aggressively over here, stop anyone from coming in, and do a lot of damage on the enemies. You can then also plant right here and use a molly to stop the enemies from going for the defuse, or you can just use this ult to get down the plant and then get out towards long, drop your ult, and then just play spam. If I had to give Viper a rating from S to F, I'd actually give her the B tier. She is not good on this map, by far not, but she is usable. You can use her, for example, in the way I showed you on attack, and really good on defense. You can cover almost every entrance with the Viper wall and the orb at the same time, so you have a lot of defensive power, and you can also use her to lurk pretty well, but for that you most of the times need a second smoker to have on your team for the side takes. In general, it is really predictable to play against a Viper on attack, so playing a Viper is not good, but it is a map where Viper is actually playable. That would be it from me. If you want to see any other agents on any other maps, write them down in the comments. And if you want to see anything else Valorant related, write it down there as well. And as always, don't forget to like and sub, and come say hi to me on Twitch, where I stream almost daily. Have a great rest of your day, and see you guys very soon. Bye!